Hello, hello. Good afternoon. It's afternoon, right? Yeah, it's 12 p.m. Eastern time.
It's morning here.
Everything, I know, everything is all mixed up.
I know. It's that time.
That's right. Good afternoon, everyone, and we are here for our next session and here with Ruth Lagerquist. Yeah, there we go. Director over at Sheridan County 911 out of Montana, and she's going to be doing a session called 911 All Over the World. Take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Ricardo. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. 911 all over the world. So I am I'm always quite interested in things that are a little bit off the wall. Being way up here in severe northeast Sheridan County in Montana, we're almost Canada, almost North Dakota. We have a lot of time to sit and think and ponder and engage in trivial information. And I just thought, boy, I wonder what everybody else is doing around the world. So I'm going to share whatever I can find. So around the world, does everyone use the same number? My husband and I have traveled quite a bit. We've been to Australia. We've been to Europe a couple times. We might have some plans yet to go somewhere else, not really sure where. Maybe Sweden, Lithuania. I'm one quarter Lithuanian. And I've always kind of wondered what number you call, especially when we were in Venice. And I'll tell you that story later. Um, if you're traveling around, you should be prepared. Not everybody uses 911. 911 is really kind of limited to our area of the world, North America, a little bit in South America, and some other exceptions, and we'll talk about that. So let's head on into the world of 911 or not. And I need to start with Africa. I'm going to start with Africa. So Africa has all these numbers. Some places are 911, some are 112. It depends on what influences they have, what larger countries they're connected with. If they're connected with like England, they would use the 112 or something in Europe. I listed a lot of the numbers they use. Some of them are really bizarre, like the 2251-4242 for, I don't know where that one's for, or the 772-0373. Some of them are 2-digit numbers, some are 3-digit numbers, some are 4-digit numbers. Chad has a different one for ambulance and a different one. And then Comoros, I don't even know where that's at, has that weird one for their ambulance. Some have different ones for the police, ambulance, fire. A lot of times the police take whatever they get and they can transfer it to somewhere. Mobile phones are set up to call 112 in different places. Cape Town, South Africa, has nothing but 107. You can't call anything but 107. That's all you can call. Now I have to have a little bit of a spot here. I was able to visit with one person. I got some information off Facebook. A lot of it I've gotten off the internet and their websites. So if things are different, if you are in Cape Town and something else works, feel free to let me know. I'm just giving you the information that I was able to find. Okay. So a little bit of a caveat there. Like I said, Cape Town kind of does their own thing. But they've had to adjust for mobile phones in most all of these countries because everybody's traveling and they have their mobile phones. Not everybody's phones work in other countries, but if they do work, they have to have a place for it to go. And like I said, most of it goes to the police, and then they will send out who they need to send out. So that's Africa. In particular, Egypt. They had there was a little article in 2022, and this guy was quoted as saying, 112 will be the National Emergency Network number. It will be Egypt's 911 as seen in America and Hollywood movies. So I thought that was pretty funny that they look at the movies and they say, oh, we're going to take that. There are 2187 answering points nationwide in Egypt. Now, I assume that they count the ambulance and everyone that's separate there. Egypt didn't have an awful lot of information, but now they are going strictly 112, and like I said, that's a lot like Europe. Europe's main number is 112. In South Africa, they have 9 emergency numbers that they need, that they say you need to save in your phones. The police is a 5-digit one, 10111, and I thought that was kind of interesting that they're 5 digits, but they also include the 112. They have different numbers for mountain rescue, for insurance or hospital net care, they called it. They have a poison control. Oh, they have a separate number for mental health, which we now have in the US 988, which is absolutely wonderful. Child welfare, child abuse. They have all those extra numbers in South Africa. Again, except for Cape Town, because Cape Town is super independent. They do what they want to do. We're going to head over to Asia. So Russia is in both Asia and Europe. So they're kind of separate and different. They're just a big country that's everywhere. Japan has information about emergencies on their website, free and pay call numbers. They have different numbers for mobile phones at U.S. military installations. At U.S. military installation, if they're on an installation, if you call 911, you will usually be patched over to the police in that country. And then they will get you where you need to go. So they've taken that into account if you're on U.S. installations. So the 911 is redirected to 1110 in Japan, which is the police. I noticed that there are 2 Koreas, and I thought it was kind of, I'm not super familiar with all the countries in the world, but there's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They have different numbers for fire. The police and ambulance are only local numbers. So I know a lot of people, especially the older population here, are familiar with the number that we used before we got 911 in 1998. So it's quite interesting to see that. And we've got to take extra care to keep our local number up because of that. But I see in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, they have that. Republic of Korea, they use the 112 a lot with the 119. They have a national security number, which I thought was quite interesting. That would be maybe a tip line here or something like that. And then reporting spies, which I thought was particularly interesting because that was the way it was listed on their website. If you want to report a spy, there you go. If somebody's breaking into a nuclear reactor, you dial 111. Taiwan and the Republic of China, mobile phones were again 112, which I thought was really nice. And the call is redirected to 0 to the operator, and you can choose from there. These are all the numbers Asia uses. Well, not all of them. There's local numbers, and I didn't list all the local numbers, but quite often the largest use ones are 112 and 999. And the 999 started in Europe. Mobile phones will work with 112 and the 911 because of locations where the U.S. has their installations. So then I thought, well, we'll check out Pakistan. Pakistan, the SID police, has job opportunities. And they talked about how to get a job in their telecommunications. They call it the SID police telecommunication application. And so I'm assuming this is dispatch, but they also talked about communications out on the road too. So I'm not sure if it goes into the police section, but they had limitations. You had to be a male, 18 to 28. Your chest had to be a certain size, height 5'9" and higher. I think it is. Is it 5'9" or 5? And a male has to run 1,600 meters in 7 minutes, where a female has different parameters because of the physical differences, I thought. But we only have to walk 800 meters in 14 minutes. So I don't know if they just think we're slower or just can't do it. They had their application was all in English, which I thought was quite interesting. But they said there is a quota for men and women. How many men, how many women? So they want to make sure they have enough of each. They have an advanced psychometric test that is only given in Karachi. So you can fill out the application in English, but you better know your psychological issues in Karachi. I thought that was quite interesting that they had the application online. They talked a little bit about what the jobs were. Some of the job descriptions were no, I didn't understand them as well as how we would put it here. China now in Asia is noted as one of the safest places for expats, that's someone coming from outside the country, to live. But the locals are really scared to help you out. They're really reluctant to help a stranger. And I don't know why. It's kind of, they have their blinders and, okay, you're having problems. Sorry. The police is 120, but you can text to 12110, which I thought was interesting that they had a different text number. They have emergencies on water because they're right by the water, different fire, different EMS. And if it's a traffic accident where you don't need fire or EMS, there's a whole nother number for that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, Brandy says she's not tall enough for all the cool rides. So, sorry. All right, Russia is in both Europe and Asia, so we have to kind of consider that. In Moscow, they said there's 230 services in one number. I don't know what they consider a service, whether it's the hospital or the ambulance or whatever. But in Moscow, in particular, I don't know about the rest of the country, they've had 112 for 11 years. And like I said, 112 is a European number. I have a few Russian words here, and I have no idea how to pronounce them. You know, I just like Ricardo can't remember how to pronounce my name. But one I thought that we should remember is the bottom one, and I'm going to have to find out how to say that if I do go to Russia. Yo alongo mi delal means I didn't do it. So if they ever call the police, I want to be able to tell them I didn't do it. Now we're going to get to Europe. Europe basically uses 112 for most everywhere. 999 is in England, is in the UK, but there are other numbers that they do use for the different things. Germany traditionally is 110 for police and 112 for fire. I know up here we had a particular number. It says 765-1234. Started out being the Plentywood Fire Department, and pretty soon everybody was using it for emergencies. And we had the big red phone on the wall that we answered. Very seldom did we get a call, but it would be for fires mostly. In Austria, they have some different numbers that they use. The 112, again, is answered by police. They send everybody to police, and that is sent out again after that. In the Netherlands, it's 112, but there's different numbers that you can text, which I think are going to be kind of hard to remember. I like that we can text 911 here. I do like that. That's pretty handy. but 112 does work nearly everywhere. There are a few exceptions, and also 911 may redirect to 112 and then head on to the next numbers. So I wanted to choose a couple countries in Europe, and I had a lot of fun in Europe, I tell you. My husband and I traveled to visit our exchange student, and we were in Venice. So here's my story. I had some kind of fish. I can't remember. It was called rockfish, stonefish. We ate a whole bunch of it one night. They came into Venice. They had dinner with us. They said, "See you in the morning." And we went to our, well, it's kind of a bed and breakfast. It's an apartment that they owned. And I had no phone. I couldn't call an emergency number. I started having my throat closing up a bit. I started getting hives. So I was having an awful reaction. I was putting cream. I was taking pills. I told my husband, I said, didn't, on the Campo that we were at, I believe it was the Campo de Margarita, I said, didn't they have a payphone? And he says, yeah, there's a payphone over there. So he walked down to find the payphone. So he knew where it was at. And I was messaging, Facebook messaging our exchange student saying, what number do I call for the ambulance? And he said 118. You have to call 118. But he says, remember, they have to come by water, because in Venice, everything is done by water. There's bridges, there's anywhere where you walk is like the back streets, the back roads. So they would have to come by water. Well, I remembered we had walked over to the one side of the Campo and found where the water would be. And so he said, yep, that's where the ambulance would come. So I gave my husband all these instructions, and I took a Sharpie and put it on a big note and put all my medication in my purse, the big note with 118 across there, and tell them to meet over by this area, and that's where we're going to be, and had it all ready for him. I took a bunch of extra pills, and I said, I'm going to bed. And if you come into bed and I don't look good, call the ambulance. So luckily, I made it through the night. Fine. I didn't have any major medical issues, but my hands were swollen. I had all these hives. So we had to find, I knew there was a medico, there was a doctor at the San Marco Square. And in Venice, there's no addresses. You don't know how to get anywhere. You just go, and then a sign will say, go this way for this thing. So it'll go this way for Rialto, this way for San Marco. So I had my hands, and I had those little dollar store gloves on my hands to kind of help with the compression. I'm like this, walking through Venice with my husband trailing behind because he's really navigationally challenged. And we're following the signs for San Marco Square. And we get to the end of this peninsula with the church. There's churches all over. And I can see San Marco Square across the Grand Canal. And I'm like, crap, how do I get there? I looked at the water, and I knew it was illegal to swim in the Grand Canal. But I thought, I wonder if I could make it. And then I happened to look over to the side, and I found a water taxi. Or water bus, I'm sorry. So I went over there. Does anybody speak English? And yes, this nice lady said she did. And I said, I'm having a reaction. I need to get over there to the doctor's station, to the medical station. And she says, well, this is the bus. You go 2 stops and then get off. And I said, where do I pay? Because there was no kiosk, no nothing. And she said, the locals don't pay. But if you really feel like you need to, you can pay on the other end. And she made sure that we got on the very next water bus. So we went our 2 stops, get off at San Marco. Nobody could tell me where it was at, but I knew there was a big red X somewhere. So we finally found it. It was in a military installation. So here's this guy with his camo and his big rifle, and I said, I need the medico. And he goes, kind of back there. Found the doctor, and he didn't speak English, but I knew this much Italian, a little teeny bit. And he said, Allergica. And I said, yes. So I'm showing him all my hives and my hands. And he asked if it was shrimp, because I'm sure he gets that a lot. And I said, no. And finally he looks at me and he goes, cortisone, cortisone. And I said, see, cortisone. So, so I got my shot of cortisone. I turned to my husband. I said, pay the man. And he 26 euros later, we were out and I was feeling much better. So if you do travel, you've got to find out what the numbers are. These are Pazzo Turista, which are crazy tourists. That's us. And that the picture up above is a water ambulance going into the hospital there. 911 in Italy will redirect to the 112, and the 112 will direct to the appropriate places. Venice does like their 3 separate ones with the ambulance, fire, and police. So that's my tourist story with medical. Thank goodness we didn't have to call, because I don't think he could have told them where we were at for the love of anything. Also in Italy, I was able to find a fellow on Facebook that was talking about his system. He's in the Tuscany region. His name's Antonio. He was in the Tuscany region, and he talked about how they have a PSAP 1, PSAP 2 system. I wasn't quite sure what that was, but what it is, PSAP 1 gets the call and distributes it to one of the PSAP 2s. So it's like the police get all the calls, and ambulance, oh, they send it here, fire, they send here. If they send police, they have to send it. They adopted that because of the high amount of hoax calls that they were getting. And I understand, we've been getting a lot of spam calls here in Montana at the schools too. They get 9,500 calls a day, which is pretty cool. But only 40% of them actually are emergencies and get to the PSAP 2. The PSAP 1 gets the location, they prioritize it, they can activate more than one PSAP 2. Like I said, if it's a fire and ambulance are both needed, they can activate both of them. They are able to filter out the non-emergency calls, which is really kind of nice. And the PSAP 2s, of course, are the EMS, fire, and police. The protocol time was kind of interesting to me because the whole call resolution time, he said, should be in 2.4 minutes. That's not an awful lot, especially in my situation, because our department is a solo dispatcher. So I can't just fill something out and send it to someone to take care of. I take the call, I prioritize, I send all the responders that need to be responding. I do the pre-arrival, I do the EMD, I do everything. So it can take 3 minutes before someone gets paged out, because I have to get things started. So 2.4 minutes was kind of interesting. They include 40 seconds for PSAP 1 to prioritize and transfer the call, which I thought was really kind of hard for them. They also have what he called heat maps. It kind of monitors what's inside the call for the conversation, for words and phrases, so that they can activate, say, a large evacuation or early warning things, or disaster response that are going to impact a lot of people. I don't know what those words are, and I imagine that they don't send that out because they don't want people calling in and just using those words to get things going. So this is not a picture of Antonio. This is a picture of an actual Italian policeman, and Antonio is an actual Italian emergency communications person. So I had to look at Lithuania. Lithuania has a good informational, beefy website. I was really impressed with Lithuania. It shows they only have basically 2 PSAPs, one in Vilnius, which is the capital, and one at the other end of the country. They show how the call routes and gets to us. They show how the cell phone tower only has this section, because we get our cell phone calls that are wireless 1 still. that show the east section or the northwest section. And so that's sectors, sorry, sector. But it's a very good website, very good information. I was quite impressed with their website. They gave you a lot of good stuff. In Ireland, this is a medical I found information on medical dispatch. The emergency medical dispatcher is called the emergency medical controller, or the EMC. And their average salary is 49,385 euros. So I'm not going to do the math on that one. It depends on the day. So it's all what it needs to be there. It's a little higher than in actual US dollars. They do run 12-hour shifts. My second, and this is like a second party contact with European police, we were in Northern Ireland. We were in Belfast, and somebody tried to break into our tour bus. So we had to wait for the police to come and check things out. And of course, we take all our stuff off the tour bus every night. I don't know what they thought they were going to find, but we had to wait for that, and we cardboarded up the little window on the door and headed on someplace else to get it fixed. But we had to wait for the police in Belfast to get that fixed. London, medical calls are rated 1 through 4, depending on severity, which is kind of interesting. Our CAD also rates priority calls 1 through 4. Text, if you want to text, you have to register to use it, so that it would be someone that's maybe hearing impaired or something like that. So they have to text register to 999. And this is where 999 started. In London in 1937, they were the first city to use a 3-digit emergency number, and it was 999. Now they have changed to the European 112 number, but they also keep the 999 available for use just in case. So that is probably the prettiest picture I've ever seen of a fire truck in London. I don't know where it is in London, but I thought it was beautiful. There was quite a bit of information in Europe that I felt would be informative here. In Finland, they have 6 million calls, and they have 650 colleagues. Colleagues are the emergency communication people. Their recruitment procedure, they had a whole big page after page of recruitment. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to, you can apply once you get your application. We're going to do this. We're going to do this test. We're going to run through this, then we check this, and then we do that. Then we have an interview, and then when you start, you get trained here, you do this, and you do this. Very, very good, I thought, for anyone that would be interested in the job of emergency communications, because it explained exactly how things were going to go. And right smack in the middle of this, I saw the cutest quote. It says, "Are you still not sure? We will make you change your mind." So I thought that was kind of interesting there. They also have a 112 Suomi, and that's a company, I believe, that runs the app. It sends out, it's like a reverse 911. It sends out danger notifications. There's health advice, first aid. If you want to know how to put on a tourniquet, they can help you with that. Crisis help. So everything is in one app, which I thought was quite interesting. And they really pushed that 112 Suomi app in Finland. France also uses 112. These European countries all do. And I put up a few words in French. I know a little bit more in French. I took it in high school, so I can sing the Unicorn Song by the Irish Rovers partially in French. But the one I thought was kind of interesting was SAMU, SAMU. And that's their acronym for medical. So it's Service d'Aide Médicale Urgente. So I thought that was quite interesting that and we use EMS, they use SAMU. So I thought that was kind of interesting with their Europe. I did get a personal response from an email from a guy in the Netherlands. And he said there's one national dispatch with 10 centers around the country. And he said the center he works in is the top 2 stories of this building. So I assume it's way up at the top on the tower. His name is Martin, and he's a fire dispatcher. He had a lot of great information for me. He talked about how many incidences they have per month. There's approximately 100 fire stations. On the coast, they also dispatch lifeboats for ships in need, and the Northern Sea and the local lakes. So there's a lot of water rescue, which is kind of different for us because we are landlocked. We have a couple of interesting lakes, but that's about it. He's in the Hooglanden and have no idea how to pronounce that, in Holland's Midden region. It's not where it's not the seat of the government. It's not the actual capital, but that's where the government is. I don't know why the capital and the government are different, but that's where the official seat of the governments is, where the national capital is Amsterdam. So that was quite interesting. I thought this is a picture of Martin sitting on one of the fire motorcycles. I don't know what they would use that for. They do dispatch for The Hague, which is the government. That's where the king lives, and embassies and different things like that. So they do dispatch for that area where the government is. Again, here's Martin. This is their newest uniforms. Their other uniforms were white long sleeve shirts. This probably makes a little bit more sense. And I'm assuming the white on there on the sleeves are reflective. In the office, there are 4 different jobs. You can take calls. You can be the front office, which is non-emergency calls. They just need information. They want to set up a tour with the fire trucks, something like that. And there's the Ulgifte, which is a radio dispatch. And then the back office just takes internal calls. Oh, we have this fire truck that's down. It's going to be out of commission, so take us off your list. Don't do that. Don't do that. He's called a Brandweerkundig centralist. Brandweer means fire, and Kundig means train. So he's trained in the fire. He's also cross-trained for police and EMS dispatch, because they can utilize that sometimes if they need a little extra help. They all use the same CAD nationwide, which totally makes sense. And 112 is the emergency for the local dispatch. And the wireless 112 does go to police for extra transfer. So that was Martin. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate your information. Europe. We have Nina. They have Ina. They have European Emergency Number Association. So I don't know if we took that off theirs or they took ours off. We took off of theirs or they took off of ours. I don't know. But pretty much everybody is 112. They have 112 will get everybody anything in Europe. With people with disabilities, they have numerous ways that they can contact. They can use a smartphone app. They can use SMS texting with a text phone. There's relay services, real-time text. I don't know what the difference between the text phones or if they just have a phone that just texts. There's something called Total Conversation. Total Conversation is a combination of media, at least 3 media: video, text, audio, and a bunch of other that are minor. So they call it Total Conversation. Here, I think it's included in the next gen stuff. They had talked about advanced mobile location. which is the location of the smartphone, the GPS location of the smartphone. I can't say enough about Rapid SOS. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. It saved a lot of time, effort, and people. So that's I'm not going to use any kind of acronym. I'm going Rapid SOS here. That's what we have. And what they have different campaigns for education. There's the 112 Erasmus campaign, so that they talk about different things over here. There's the air campaign, so in the planes they'll talk about here's how to call 112 and what to say. Campsites have a campaign for education. When you call 112, here's what they need to know. Here's the location thing. Here's that. They have an Airbnb partnership, but they didn't give that one a name. ENA talks on their website, talks about false emergencies, which are calls that are pocket dials. I had my first saddlebag dial, just by the way. You know, some gal on a horse had it in the saddlebag. We've had it in old cars. They put it behind the seat, under their leg on the seat, and the seat is super hard vinyl, and they're bouncing off the county roads. So those are the false ones. They have deliberate false emergencies calls, the hoax calls, a kid playing with the phone, somebody is psychiatrically ill. Well, you know, that is an emergency. I don't find that a false one, but somebody's abusing the 911 system, immediate hang-ups, silent calls. We treat all calls as an emergency unless otherwise proven. I had a text to 911. It didn't go to 911, but it went to Rapid SOS. It says, hey, there was a text sent. Well, she didn't have enough bars. She was way off in the southwest corner of the country here. And I was able to find a home in that area and a landline. And I ended up calling that landline. I don't think they realized there was a landline at that house. And she was able to call back on the landline, and I was able to get information on a domestic call. So there's so many different things to be used. But ENA, it's quite kind of an interesting website. Check it out. I liked some of the pictures they had, the little coffee 112. They talk about Humans of 112, where we have our telecommunicator week. They have Humans of 112 in February. ENA is involved in monitoring, contributing standardization work, which is NENA, APCO here, related to emergency services. Really, really good website that has a lot of good information. I did try to get hold of someone through that, but I wasn't able to. So then we're going around the world. We're in North America and the Caribbean. So that's US, Canada, Mexico, Bermuda, Puerto Rico. 911. 911 is most in North America. That's the number. Canada uses it. We use it. Mexico uses it. It heads on down to South America. A few like Guadalupe, Martinique, St. Pierre, they use the 112. Dominica is still on the old English one. Sometimes the 999 is used because British influences, things like that. So I was looking around on the Canadian and the Mexican websites. So I found some information on the RCMP, and I have been to the RCMP training ground area up in Regina, Saskatchewan. They had a telecommunication job ad that indicated that you need to have attentiveness, meticulousness, and exactness. In 1959, Winnipeg was the first 911 call. They also have the local police. They have the ambulance, and there are different numbers. We, being right next to Canada, we keep the numbers for the RCMP. We keep the numbers for EMS and for fire. In Mexico, I couldn't find hardly anything. Mexico went nationwide in 2017, and it went nationwide to combat mistrust. A headline on the Reform papers showed 911 starts up and nobody knows it. So apparently that was kind of interesting. I tried to find a picture of an ambulance or something like that from Mexico, and the best I could do was the Taco 911 in Mexico City. It's an old ambulance, and now it's a taco stand that moves around and looks like an ambulance. Are you ready, Ricardo? Ricardo
Yes.
has been to the 911 association in Mexico just recently, and he said he would comment a little bit for us.
Yes. So thank you very much. That one taco truck though, that's hilarious. I think that is awesome. Very, very cool. And I'll have to look for you said it was in Mexico City, right? I was in
That's
Mexico City
that's what it
last
said.
year. I was supposed to be the keynote speaker for Mexico Nina last year, and they were having the conference out in Puerto Vallarta. But when I went out there, and my dad was with me, so when we went out there, that area got hit with a Category 4
Oh,
hurricane, and everyone was still there for the conference, but they wouldn't like there was nothing flying over there. And the next morning too, we asked, and they're like, no, there's you're not going out there. They're not going to open it up until the following day. And I was like, well, it's already going to be over because they were still going on with the conference, even though there was stuff
oh
going on
man.
there. But I did get a chance to go this year. It was actually in Cancun. It was very nice. It was an awesome time out there, and there were some of the differences that I noticed. I'll just mention with the conference itself. So they had so in the picture here, this was the main room that all the speakers were in. There wasn't like breakout sessions where you're going to different spots. It was just in one room. Now, here's one thing that I thought was very interesting. The main entrance into this room, they end up shutting the doors. And what they do after their opening and all, and right before the keynote, right before I spoke, what they do is they take everyone next door to the expo hall. So they open up those side doors and everyone goes through, and every industry partner gets a chance, like just a few seconds to say, hello, this is what we're doing here. Make sure to come on and check us out. And once they go through all that, everyone comes back in, and then you go through the keynote and all the other sessions. But that's the only way you can get in and out is through the expo hall.
Oh, it's not a
Yeah.
bad idea.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was cool that they did it that way. But also one of the things, and I don't have like statistics or anything like that, but they did February 11th is their anniversary for when they switched to 911. So February
Oh,
11th is theirs. And one of the things that was cool was that so Mexico obviously was represented there, but then all of the Latin Americas as well. So they had panels up there for Paraguay, Panama, and Costa Rica. And they were talking about some of the things that they've been dealing with, but also a lot of prank callers and such.
oh,
But yeah, so I I was trying to remember some of the differences. I think so like some places, and I guess it's the same way here in the States as well. Some places will send out for a hang up call or even a prank call or whatever, and others like they don't. They just continue doing whatever they're doing.
yeah.
Um, but one of the things that's going to be really cool for people to watch out for is what's going to be coming up soon is I'm actually working with Mexico as well as the Latin Americas to do a special Latin American edition of Within the Trenches, where we're going to have dispatchers come on from, and I'll just say this really quick, from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, the Dominican Republic, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Paraguay, and Uruguay. And
Wow.
they're gonna be not only sharing their stories, but how they do everything where they are at. And one thing that I can say for how things work around there is the culture is different than the way
Mhm.
we have it now. And one of the things and reasons too that I was out there and speaking is to try to assist with changing the mindset and changing the culture for a lot of their now professionals. It was very eye opening to hear my story and other stories going on where they don't really share a lot of their stuff. As you kind of saw, doing a lot of your
With the
research as
Falcon Trek
well.
picture, yes.
Yeah. A lot of that
Man,
research that they are now going to be sharing a lot more about what they do, why they do it, and some of the differences from other places around the
oh,
world. So it was very eye opening to see how just sharing just a couple stories, there was a lot of emotions and a lot of people who really wanted to jump on and start sharing what it is and share their stories and how
mm,
they work their system and around the world. I did not get a chance to go to one of the dispatch centers there because I was still in the air at the time that they did their tour, but it was really cool to be out
yeah,
there and just see the pride and everything that they have and what it is that they do. So it was really cool to be out there in Mexico.
that is wonderful. I'm quite interested to watch that for Central America and like that because it was hard to find a lot of information. I have South America yet, so
Well, awesome. Well,
they,
I'm glad that thank you for the
thanks,
opportunity to
Ricardo.
just kind of share a few things here, and
Oh yeah.
I'll let you get back to it.
All right, we're heading to South America now.
All
Thank
right.
you. So South America, 911 is in a lot of places. Venezuela has 911. Brazil is the one that's a little different, 190, 192, 193. I thought that was quite interesting that they did that way. In South America, Argentina is 911 also, and they went in 2017. The photos from 2008, and it's federal police. And I tell you what, I don't want to meet up with those guys. And Chile had a little bit of information on their website, and they tell you to remember a useful mnemonic to remember their numbers: ABC 123. So ambulance is 131. There's the one. Bomberos, which is fire, is 132. That's the B. Carabineros, which is the police, is the 3. So ambulance 131, bomberos 132, carabineros 133. 911 does redirect to 133, which is the police. Thought that was quite interesting. Australia is pretty much universally 000. Mobile phones use 112 or 000. New Zealand also uses 111 for texts, 112 and 911, which redirects to the 111 for text. So 111 must be police. 000 or 999 recorded message to call 111. So that I thought was interesting that, okay, you're going to call for an emergency and there you go. And New Zealand to me is part of Australia. I just always thought it kind of was. American Samoa, Fiji, Guam, a bunch of those are 911. And depending on the British influence, you have your 112s or 999s. Australia's 000 quote is stay focused, stay relevant, and stay on the line. So stay. Telestra is a kind of a local phone company. It's a phone company in Australia, and they have the operator that takes the call, then connects the call to the emergency service operator, and they answer 000 and 112. So they have, from what I could tell, they have contracted with Telestra to handle that. 106 they use for TTY, and there's also non-English calls are only on a landline, only on a fixed line, and the translator will be organized once they find out what you need. Antarctica. That's exactly what Antarctica looks like. You can't see the map because everything is white and it's snow. McMurdo Station, it's US, so we use 911. And there are 30 national programs. Antarctica is kind of everybody's continent. So we have the McMurdo Station. different programs over here. There's a council of managers of national and Arctic programs. A lot of it probably is search and rescue. They bring those nations together to facilitate and provide opportunities to build relationships. They get to talk to each other. There is an East Antarctic emergency coordination group on the eastern side. That would include Australia, French, Italy, Chinese, Japanese, Russians, Indians, and on the eastern side. So to me, it's kind of everybody owns it. Everybody does stuff. So that's kind of interesting. 911 and 112 in the USA. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but if someone is in the US on a wireless call and they dial 112, they get us at 911. And I'm thinking that might also work with landlines, because one of our accountant offices accidentally called 911, and we called them back, and they're like, no, we didn't call you. You called us. No, you called us first, or we wouldn't have called you. Oh no, I believe that they were dialing out, and they called 112 accidentally, and it came to us. But I've tested it, and it does work up in our area. So I'm not sure if it's nationwide or if it's just our local company that decided to do that. I don't know. I would be interested in finding out if it works all over. This is a map with the different phone numbers. Just kind of the bigger phone numbers. So you see 911 is the blue here, and it heads on down. Oh, then we have 112. 112 is European, and then wherever the British influence is, or the French influence, things like that, and some of the islands over here. I don't know why they didn't give Australia their own 000 color. Theirs is just random other. So here's where all the numbers are. There's 1110, 109. 117 is this yellow in here. I thought it was quite interesting to see this map. So that's pretty much, we've gone around the world pretty quickly. It didn't take 80 days, thank goodness. and I gave you the information that I was able to find. So I'm sure some of it hopefully is not wrong, but could be expanded on. I find it quite interesting. If you do decide to go to another country, find out what their emergency numbers are. So, oh, Donald, okay, it works in Monterey County, California. So I'm wondering if it's a nationwide thing, or if the companies all just said, let's do it. We get a lot of travelers. We get a lot of people from Europe that come over. So I'm sure that's what those are the two main numbers, 911 and 112. So thank you for going around the world with me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed looking into it. Like I said, I'm always thinking about random things. And if anybody has any questions, that's my email. It's a super long email, super long name, Sheridan County, Montana, SheridanCountyMT.gov. And thank you so much. And thank you, Ricardo. Every year I've enjoyed coming in the last few years to see what's going on, to share random things. And I'm sad this is the final frontier here, but I've enjoyed every year. It's fun to see where the people that presented one of the first few ones, where they're at now. And it's a great networking connection. It's an awesome connecting to people. I tell my people, oh, watch this training. It's really cool. I've seen him train. Watch this over here. You brought an awesome amount of training to everyone, and us here in Severe Northeast Montana really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. It has been an honor. It has been awesome, just all of it, to be able to do this over the years. It has been a lot of fun, and it's like I said, it's the final one, but I mean, you never know. You never know. Maybe I'll do it again in a few years, but it's time to take a little break.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but either way, thank you so very much. Everybody in the comments here, And I believe as well, like in like it's especially for 112. I don't know about 999, but I'm pretty sure for 112, at least here in the States, if someone does it, it automatically will go, 911 and
Yeah.
it'll route to where it's supposed to go.
They
Um,
don't really advertise it though. They don't really say it will do that. So, but if
that's
somebody
true.
from, yeah, somebody from England gets all freaked out and they have an emergency here and they put their number in, at least they'll get help.
Yeah, yeah, it'll switch over.
Yeah.
And
I did
so
try
I
999 and 999 did not work.
Oh,
Mhm.
so there you go. So 112, excuse me, is definitely one that does it automatically. Let's see, Ryan over here says it's like a rock band when they have the final tour, and then 2 years again another final tour. I know. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm like Kiss because Kiss has been on their final
That's
tour
like,
for how many years now? So yeah, yeah, it's the
yeah.
same thing. You never
Up
know,
in
man. But
up in our area here, when we went to 911, our local phone company set aside the 765, which is our 406 765 9111. And if somebody dialed that thinking that they had to call the local prefix, the 911 would send to us. They did that for
oh,
probably 10 years.
dang.
I
Well
thought that
then.
was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is cool.
Doesn't work
Um,
now though.
oh, I just want to look in here in the comments really quick before we switch over to the next one. Stacy says this is definitely an interesting topic. Thank you for taking the time to compile and share this information with us. People saying thank you, great topic. Tina saying what a unique and interesting training for all the trainings I've attended over the years. Love a fresh idea. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, see, Roxy, as per usual, this is amazing, Ruth. Yes, always have fun with you on here and stay
Thank
warm.
you.
I think I read in the beginning of the comments that you guys might be blown up into Canada, huh?
Yeah. Well, the wind is blowing and the snow's coming out. The only one in the house that likes the snow is my dog. She likes to roll in it. So, but
Well, I
eh,
mean,
I
it's
have a
gotta have fun,
2 minute
right?
commute, so I can make it to work.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, that is always good. You can snowmobile in.
Yep.
Excellent. Well,
Right.
again, thank you very, very
Thank
much. And for
you.
everyone who is watching, we're going to switch over to the next session. I will bring you there with me. The next session is going to be with Lisa Dodson, and she's going to be doing a session called Navigating Your Career Journey. So we will see you all in the next one.